What's going on, everyone? It is the Derv, and I promised you guys that I would start to dive into Solipsism as soon as possible in the Edge of Fate, and this is my first video surrounding it. This video is going to incorporate one of my favorite roles of the exotic class item. True, we don't get the damage resistance buff from Solipsism as it's not technically a featured exotic, but what we do get is given archetypes on already acquired Solipsism roles. So this is going to be one of my top ones that I use on a regular basis. Hopefully you guys do find this video valuable and it can help you achieve better results in your quest to killing all the enemies of the Traveler. So here we go, Solipsism video numero uno. This is one of my favorites. Let's get it going. So to get started on one of my favorite Solipsism Warlock builds, we are going to get it going with Song of Flame. Release a supercharged melee attack that launches additional projectiles, and create a sentient flame wisp that seeks out targets and detonates in a scorching explosion, then seeks out other nearby targets. While Song of Flame is active, you and nearby allies regenerate abilities more quickly, are more resistant to incoming damage, and your solar and kinetic weapons scorch targets. So a lot going on here with Song of Flame, and this build we are going to be able to spam it in as little as 1 minute depending on how busy the activities are. For abilities, we're going to go with Phoenix Dive for that instant cure, Burst Glide, Arcane Needle for the stacking charges up to 3, but we aren't going to be using it that often. We're going to be using it with our Lightning Surge, and I prefer the Storm Grenade, but a lot of people really like the Vortex Grenade. You could also make an argument for the Healing Grenade, and of course the Cold Snap Grenade if you want. For aspects, Feed the Void is up. Defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. Feast on the energies of your defeated foes. Final blows restore health, grant grenade energy, and extend Devour. So we're going to be proccing this with our next aspect and keeping it going with our weapons. Lightning Surge is our next aspect. 3 fragment slots on this one. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to blink forward, calling down lightning strikes that jolt targets as you rematerialize. Targets that are hit by your lightning strikes grant you stacks of bolt charge. We're going to be getting bolt charge regularly with this build because of our stacking melee ability, and that's going to add to our total potency with our weapons. For fragments, we're going to start off with Facet of Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants us restoration. We're going to be getting our health back and shields. It cannot be interrupted by taking damage. Next up, we have Facet of Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. So with our Lightning Surge, we're going to be generating Ionic Traces. Our Solar Weapon is going to generate Fire Sprites. And with our Strand Weapon, we're going to be generating Tangles. Next up is Facet of Sacrifice. When you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability Final Blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendence energy. This one can be debated, but I think it's worth it because you aren't going to be spamming Darkness energy weapons as much as other builds. So Facet of Sacrifice, I think, is probably your best bet here. You also get a plus 10 to Grenade. Next up, we have Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. Since we're going to be switching back and forth between Strand and Solar, we are going to be generating an absurd amount of grenade as well as melee energy. Keep in mind, this also includes our Lightning Surge. Yes. And any possible mods we have to our weapons that could influence this as well. Last but not least, we have Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants who are more resistant to incoming damage, while transcendent, the effect is increased. Plus 10 to melee, so take the bump on that. Our Lightning Surge, we're going to be spamming it in the midst of enemies anyways, so it's best to have that increased resistance. As far as stat distribution, I recommend speccing into Super, Strength, and weapons in that order, and take any other extra stats you have and dump them into your grenade. The grenade is not nearly as important in this build as your powered melee and your super regen and your weapon damage. To put this in perspective, with our weapons, we're going to be getting an increase of 13.8% to our overall damage, and that includes a 9.2% reload and handling. For melee, we're going to get 178% ability regen, and our cooldown is 1 minute. And then whatever dump stats you have into grenade, you will get a 58-second cooldown at 90 and 160% grenade energy recharge rate, which is going to be plenty. You could even make an argument that you don't even need 90 in this. You could take 10 away from this and bump weapons up to 100 if you really wanted to. For weapons, in the kinetic slot, we're going to go with a strand, a strand weapon specifically. I recommend either Mint Retrograde or Last Thursday. Now, Mint Retrograde, of course, drops from the Pinnacle Ops, so if you haven't gotten a good one yet, it's time to pick one up. This one isn't the best roll. I've got beacon rounds and chain reaction, but it is a special ammo weapon, and it is very, very good at taking down beefier enemies. You could also make an argument for Qua Nihilus, but I don't think you need double primary ammos for this build. In the energy slot, we have a lot more flexibility. I like No Hesitation. I also like the BXR Battler. I also like the pre-Astyanax 4. And you could also make an argument for Devil's Ruin, Sunshot, Polaris Lance, Amit. I mean, you can take your pick on what solar weapon you want. The key here is being able to generate additional splash damage. So No Hesitation, BXR, Trusty, the bow that I mispronounced earlier, those all deal with incandescent. So does Amit, so does Phonutria, Farah, and of course Sunshot, Devil's Ruin. And Ahab Char is kind of a wild card because it doesn't technically have incandescent, and after the artifact expires, you won't be able to spread that scorch as easily. So that one I still am kind of cooled on. I don't really like it as much as some people, but you can make your own debate. The main thing is being able to generate additional splash damage with incandescent. Also, it helps if you have Demolitionist, which BXR and No Hesitation both do. You can make an argument for the bow or Trusty if you have Killing Wind, but I really like these two in the energy slot. Oh, and by the way, No Hesitation, you get the Dealer's Choice perk, a little bump to your super regen. Not that you need it, but that's kind of the point of this build. In the heavy slot, it's going to be either Dragon's Breath or Apex Predator. Dragon's Breath, of course, rockets eject burning fuel, strong against unstoppable champions. The composite repellent, rockets embed themselves in stuck target and periodically eject incendiary fuel, which inflicts scorch. The longer this weapon goes without firing, the more fuel the next rocket contains. And of course, it's strong against unstoppable champions. The high octane igniting nearby targets partially replenishes fuel. The weapon refills itself from reserves upon gaining maximum fuel. So if you play this right, you don't really ever have to manually reload Dragon's Breath, although I still do on occasion anyways. But I'm doing it for the overall scorch and damage tick that it offers, and there's nothing really close to it. With the catalyst, the weapon replenishes its fuel faster. Defeating targets with this weapon causes them to periodically drop fire sprites. Fire sprites, of course, give us grenade energy back. For the armor, let's get started with Solipsism. I really love Spirit of Inmost Light paired with Spirit of Harmony. Using an ability empowers the other two abilities, granting you increased ability regen, and Spirit of Harmony weapon final blows grant super energy. So, because weapons play a really big role now in a lot of people's builds, having them generate additional super energy makes this roll of Solipsism, even though you don't get the damage resistance buff from the artifact, extremely viable and valuable. As far as the rest of the armor goes, go ahead and mod into whatever general armor mod you want. Again, no 4 energy costs anymore, so spec in till your heart's content. For the helmet, go ahead and put on a heavy ammo finder, the hands-on if you want, and the harmonic siphon. You could also switch this out for the strand and the solar dual siphon if you prefer, if you're not worried about getting increased ability regen for your super. But I want my super to be able to be spammed as much as possible in this, which is why I have hands-on. But believe me, I understand you can swap this out and it probably won't hurt you that much. In this column, we've got in the gauntlets, we've got the firepower, heavy-handed, and fastball. Fastball is just rounding it out because I've got 1 energy left and nothing else in this slot costs 1 energy. But I can throw my arc grenade or my vortex grenade or whatever, or even my healing grenade further if need be. For the legs, go ahead and spec into Invigoration, Innervation, and Absolution. You want your main two abilities to regenerate faster, and having your abilities slowly get tick damage back to them for regeneration is even sweeter. For Solipsism itself, go ahead and throw on the class font. You gain a bonus to your class stat plus 30 on first orb pickup. Once you use your Phoenix Dive, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power, and you will use that orb of power to reduce your melee cooldown when using your class ability. For the artifact, go ahead and put on Overload Rapid Fire, Unstoppable Sidearm, and Anti-Barrier Scout and Pulse. In the second column, Flame, Fiber, and Freeze. And put on Rapid Precision Rifling. If you do opt to go with Polaris Lance, this will be used very easily. In the third column, go ahead and put on Refresh Threats, picking up an elemental pickup matching your subclass element or tangle, while you have Strand Super grants energy to your least charged ability. Easy super regen. Reciprocal Draw, I have this on here in case anyone wants to pair their Devil's Ruin with it, or possibly switch into a Strand Sidearm. I also recommend putting Fever and Chill Rapid Precision hits with Solar Weapons, grants Radiant, which we are going to be Radiant all the time. In the fourth column, Cauterize Darkness, Stasis and Strand debuff non-boss combatants take increased solar damage. We won't have a lot of Strand debuff non-boss combatants, but this is kind of a play right now because there are so many people out there utilizing Stasis and Strand debuffs that you're likely going to see them in fire teams. Elemental Coalescence. Defeating targets has a chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super. It doesn't matter what the element is that your weapon represents that you're using. You can still generate fire sprites, which of course give us grenade energy back. In the final column, Radiant Shrapnel, numero uno on the list, dealing sustained weapon damage while radiant, or defeating a scorched combatant with a weapon causes the target to release solar projectiles that deal increased damage and scorch on impact. Since I'm going to be dumping round after round into enemies and scorching them, this makes the most sense. Shield Crush comes up next, while you have, for us, Woven Mail, Frost Armor, Void Over Shield, Amplified Radiant Grenade. You get additional buffs. The first three gives your melee recharge back. The second three gives you your grenade recharge faster, and both deal increased damage. I probably will not take Shield Crush off this entire season. However, if you were to take it off, the only one that would make sense to substitute it with would be Elemental Overdrive. Picking up an elemental pickup or tangle grants increased damage to weapons of the same element. So whichever you like better, go ahead and throw that on. So one of the reasons I think you should try this build is, well, quite honestly, it is my favorite Solipsism role. And for those who do have favorites in the Solipsism bond, Inmost Light and Harmony has to be up there. There's only a couple, in my opinion, that rival it. I won't spoil them for you now, but they don't involve Spirit of Harmony. It really just depends on your play style, but because of the increased ability regen, if you're cycling through your abilities in general, you're gaining yourself virtually a merry-go-round of using your abilities one after the other. If that's not enough, your increased super regen with your Harmony weapon and the increase in weapon damage with Mint Retrograde and the scorching damage with Dragon's Breath basically lead to never-ending scorching, never-ending ability recyclery. You get, orb pickup, you get fire sprites. There's really a lot of things to like with a basic build like this. And if you get higher tiered armor, which you can see, I don't have tier 2 or 3 in every single slot. These numbers right here are going to go up as you spec into it. So if you did find anything helpful with this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who could benefit from a video like this, wondering if Solipsism is even still good in the Edge of Fate, despite it not getting a damage resistance buff, make sure you send this video with them or to them, or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. I will have a dim link in the video description. And if by chance you are looking for a non-toxic gaming community, I highly recommend checking out my Discord. It's got a lot of great people in there who are willing to help with virtually everything, including the power grind that most everyone is still going through. So shout out to my Discord for being so welcoming to everybody. So I'm going to switch over to the boss battle, not as involved as I'd like to show you, but for basic demonstration purposes and the fact that I don't have tier 4 or tier 5 gear yet, I think you will understand the concept. So here we go. So here we go with the boss battle. Now, unlike one of the most recent videos I put out in which I airmailed my super going into said boss battle, this one I was more successful with, so I am evolving for the better. In all seriousness though, Solipsism is not going away. True, some people have shelved it because it can't get the damage resistance buff. Maybe others are farming for the new exotic gear, and of course, maybe there's other builds out there that people are speccing into for the artifact, or maybe they don't have the ideal Solipsism role. Remember, Solipsism was automatically given archetypes by Bungie, so I'm sure there's Solipsism roles out there. I know of one in particular that's in my vault that got probably shelved for the duration of the season at least, because I didn't really like the stat distribution on it, and or I didn't agree with it. And that's why everyone's kind of just confused right now. Solipsism, of course, we knew wasn't going to be a featured exotic armor or just armor in general to where we were going to get damage resistance buffs. Of course, I had to reload my Dragon's Breath right there. But in any event, instead, what people are trying to focus on is who they're going to be. And that is kind of the point of doing this build right here, because Solipsism, you know, typically speaking, made you the complete player pre-Edge of Fate, and now that everyone's got a spec into archetypes as well as stat distributions within those archetypes, it's a change. It's a change for everybody involved, even people like me who have been doing this for a long time. We have to decide each and every build who we want to be, how we want to be that guardian, and what powers